Hello, hello. How are we doing, boys? Are we good?
All good, bro. Christmas
All good, man.
jumper on,
There we
ready.
go. We're back again with another pod with the boys. We're
Back
hopefully gonna get
again.
Chris on soon. He's just sorting some stuff out. Finally late for once and not me, but I had to throw her in there. But yeah, lads, we're back with another kind of review. Sunderland 5-1. Again, Christmas schedule is mad for me, so I couldn't
Yes.
watch this live. But
Mm.
boys, what are your initial thoughts on it, man? Like, that's a serious result in terms of squad depth. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I took away was just broadly looking at last year and this year. This game really cemented for me second string being able to perform. Like, I think it's not so much the
Correct.
opposition. I don't think it's so much this game in isolation, but I look at it as a quarterfinal in a big cup, okay, where we did field almost 50% of our regular starters out and not in the starting 11. And
Mm.
the team performed for one of the better attacking performances. And I understand the level and I understand this isn't Wimbledon and so on. But at the same token, we weren't doing this last year. So for me, it was kind of a case of, you know what, this really cemented that the squad depth really did impact the team. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Like, what do you think of the game? We kind of XZ zooged our way through a really good performance. That's what now, 4 games on the bounce that were over 2 goals, over 2 XG, over 15 shots. Like, that's no longer, oh, it's coincidence. That's 4 games of data at this point. So, what do you
Mm.
guys think? I'll go to you, Willow, first. What was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I would say it was definitely a fun game. It was a lot of different things happening. It was quite end to end at times. It was more end to end than most people thought. But I guess we went 4-3-3, and we do not have the facilities for that. So it
We should.
was.
I'm having a discussion. The narcissist in me cannot stop without having a little discussion about this. But yeah, no, I agree, man. Like, it was a little bit end to end. And but you know what? 5-1 for me.
Mm,
Whenever a team scores 5-1, especially Arsenal, like this Arsenal team, regardless of who it is, it's special. Like, if you count the amount of times in the last 2 years we've achieved a goal of just 5 goals in one match, you can count them on one hand. It's
mm.
not often, despite how we may have, squatted inequalities, even Europa League and whatnot. This team doesn't score five. We really don't do that.
Mm.
So for me, it took a chance of saying the last couple of weeks in our kind of tough run of form. I wouldn't say bad form because it was only a couple games, but when we were struggling a bit, when we all thought we would do better, a big thing was efficiency. And I think in the last couple of weeks, we've really been efficient, which is odd for this team.
I still feel like we've left goals on the pitch in nearly every single game we've played, including this
Casual.
Oh,
one.
definitely. Definitely.
Odegaard should have scored yesterday. I think there was a few more chances
Yeah.
again where we could have finished.
The
Could have had a
cutback chance you
penalty.
were talking in the box, right?
Yes, the cutback chance in the box.
Yeah,
For me, you got to finish. You got to finish that. But
you do.
it was nice to see. I really like seeing overlapping fullbacks. I just like simple things in life sometimes. So it was nice to see a bit more of that, even though it was Cedric going down the right hand side, and sometimes it was very painful to watch.
Yeah.
It was all right. It wasn't as bad as Pepe. 1 minute he's doing something brilliant, the next minute he can't control a ball just rolling to him. He's probably. I've talked on BoP how much I love unpredictable players. That does not include Pepe, because I don't mean them kind of unpredictable players. Jesus, that guy is very unpredictable.
Oh, that's funny. Z, mate, what about you? Like, initial thoughts on the
Mm,
game overall? Like, do you agree with me? Where,
yeah.
like, for me, I took a big thing about squad depth. Like, and I didn't mean
Yeah.
quality necessarily, but I was just like, wow, we are able to field something that doesn't resemble our starting 11, but still
Uh-huh.
resemble our primary style of play. And that for me is big.
Yeah.
Every time you see that data point.
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean, I said this yesterday as well. It felt like for the first time in a while, well, I've watched a second string team
Hmm.
play cohesive football. Although we didn't play cohesive football in the first half, probably for the first 20-25 minutes, I felt like the players were, getting used to, just the rhythm on the pitch. Some of those players haven't been playing for a while. But like I said, it felt like Arteta's instructions went straight through to everybody on the pitch. And to be fair, like I feel like collectively we got a good performance. Like I feel like some people were a bit harsh on Ben White yesterday. I feel like he just wasn't there in that sense. Like it was just one of those off games. But even despite Ben White having an off game, I feel like overall we performed at a very good very good level, and the quality of goals that we that we scored, they were very good goals. They were they were easily some of the way Arteta likes to play, just through the fullbacks, and just to see like our second string players like Nicholas Pepe, Nicholas Cedric, all these guys performing. I mean, it kind of bodes well because there's going to be at some stage, a time where we might need those players to start playing for us because of supposed injuries and whatnot. So yeah, overall, I was happy. I was happy with the performance, and
I mean, like,
yeah,
just
I
some
mean,
quick
look,
stats,
I'm
Z,
glad.
mate. Like when you talk about kind of this team performing, you're always a big fan of, you know, the possession increasing. I think that was one of your very
Yeah,
valid concerns. And when you look at something where we've got 19 shots, 10 on target, 69% possession
yeah,
across, the entire team, and then when you look at the goals, right? I wonder if the first half, which for me was tough. We're going to have a discussion because I think the reason that we've changed a little bit has been a tactical change. Hate to be that guy, especially when you look at something that resembled more of a 4-3-3. We should talk about the inability for us to control a game in that state at that moment. And what is that? Is that tactical instruction? Is that something else? But for me, the big thing when Shaka came on, this game switched, and
it
that
switched on
level of
its head.
control. Yeah, it was a very big thing. But before we get into that, let's go into kind of starting lineups. And when we look at this kind of lineup, boys, I'll do it for everybody. I think Sunderland. Not many people will know their names, so maybe we'll take a pass respectfully on them.
Yeah.
But for all the boys on the pod, we obviously had Leno in goal, Cedric at right back, Ben White, Rob Holding, Nuno Tavares, Mohamed El Neni in the pivot, and then we had Nicholas Pepe wide with Odegaard and Emil Smith Rowe as tens, or the two eights, and then we had Balogun at left wing and Eddie up top. So first impressions, because I had a couple here, and I had a lot of questions online that people were asking me, why is Balogun not starting up top? We've seen Eddie in really good form at left wing. Other things was the two eights. I was worried. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the lineup, I was like, you know what? The quality will not make me fear us losing, but I definitely see a basketball game. Wasn't a fan of that middle. And then, of course, I really feared with Cedric and Leno because I feel that corridor, even if Ben was on good form, was going to be a difficult ask because Nico would not track back and Cedric is Cedric, letting runners go. So I'm not going to lie, guys. I saw the lineup and I'm like, this could be a tough night. And I was really glad that the result totally had that wrong. But I'm not gonna lie, I saw the lineup and I was nervous. Do you guys share that kind of anxiety when you looked at the lineup, or did you kind of feel this is a throwaway game? So you know what, I'm just happy to see whoever's out there and that we've rotated something, even if it wasn't the full level rotation that we all wanted.
I don't know. I thought it was a strong squad. I must admit, when I saw Odegaard and Smith Rowe both starting, I was annoyed personally. I wanted
Mm.
at least one of them, if not, but well, I wanted both of them rested. So to see both of them playing, I was like, okay. But as you, I saw, oh shit, we're going 4-3-3. This is going to be an open game. We're going to be, and that was the thing. I saw Cedric, and I was like, there's going to be so much space down that right hand side of ours. There's going to be so much space in behind us, and there was. I think we got lucky in the way of when you have Leno out the back. Luckily for us, we've obviously had Aaron Ramsdale in goal. So I think Sunderland are looking at their homework at Arsenal and seeing that, thinking, okay, actually, I don't think we can press it. They're not the same Arsenal where you go and press them and they'll lose the ball. So I don't think they did that as much. So Leno had a lot more time on the ball to be able to progress it. So I think he got let off by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one with Leno. I'll go to you, Z, mate, but I kind of want to throw a question to you. So, like, we see that starting lineup, and I think I agree with you, Willow. They didn't really press necessarily, but at the same token, Leno, on the odd chance he was pressed, hoofball. Like, there was a lot of
Yeah.
times that we've really seen kind of the abandonment of that buildup. Like, Z, for you, mate, when you look at this lineup, were you as worried as I was, maybe? I think Willow highlighted the two eights, probably from an injury perspective, being a little bit fearful for our season, not putting our two only creative
Yeah,
midfielders on at the same time. But for me, I kind of looked at the formation and I was like,
yeah.
I am worried about this, especially in a physical Sunderland side, which we did see, in the game.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the lineup?
I mean, initially, look, I looked up and I just was worried about how the 4-3-3 would work because potentially it was Arteta experimenting the 4-3-3 with El Neni playing as a six and Odegaard and Emil Smith Rowe as the 2 8s. And we all know that despite Arteta trying it many times, it just doesn't work. So I was just worried about how the team would fare. And look, in the game, it looked like Emil Smith Rowe struggled physically. He just couldn't cope with like the physicality that Sunderland brought. But again, it was just one of those things where you could see where Arteta wants to go with the team. So you can be kind of forgiven. All I was worried though throughout the game, when I saw the starting lineup was, you know, how are we going to be out wide? Because we all know Nicolas Pepe is more like he likes to be a bit more narrow on the pitch. He likes to make runs on the inside. Whilst Balogun, I don't know how he fares on the wing. So I just wanted to see how him and Tavares play together. And it seemed like Balogun was more of the wide outlet, whereas Tavares was trying to make more of the inside runs. So it was a bit it was a bit different to how I would usually react because it was a bit more unpredictable. But like I said, and like you guys were as well, I was a bit concerned about how the team would um, perform in that 4-3-3. And yeah, we saw it. We kind of did struggle in the early stages.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, lads. Like when I saw the lineup, and we'll get into the game because I think we saw some of these questions, at least that I had. So I felt that left hand side was not well constructed. So when you think about it, with Nuno Tavares, who will like to come inside quite a bit, he stays wide at build up. But again, Leno would not let that build up happen. So I knew we would hopefully do hoofball and win second balls and get up the pitch that way. And Nuno would typically come inside, but Balogun would be a wide outlet. Anyone who's watched Balogun knows that's not his game. He's not a wide receiver. He has played left wing for a lot of the under 23s, but he's done it alongside Mika Bareth, a 6'2" plus striker that everyone would love to have in profile with us. And he's far more inside and he combines well with people. But you've had him wide, and you basically had Emil Smith Rowe in the same spaces as Nuno trying to dribble. And how many times did we see him chop with little Cruyff and try to cut inside? And for me, it basically crowds the space. And so when I saw that, and I knew that Eddie would kind of be a floater who also, by the way, when he does come deep, he has a preference to the left. I ended up seeing about 3 or 4 players that I know love the same zones. And even without the lone pivot fear, I was kind of worried at the right hand side because, again, I kind of alluded to it where Cedric, who wouldn't track runners, and then I knew Nicholas wouldn't track back as much. I was like, thank goodness they don't have wingers because this team for me would be very, very fearful in a team that had somebody to exploit it with. I was worried on the wings in terms of what we had. And then when you look at that first half, I mean, we might as well get into it, right, lads? Like the big fears was the 4-3-3 talk, right? So this is the big tactical change that was different. We experimented. Couple people I must say in roles that I didn't love. I think that if we had switched Eddie and Balogun, it would have suited them, particularly at this stage of their careers.
Yeah.
Eddie's a far better reliable outlet than Balogun is right now. Balogun needs to, kind of he needs his experience in a sense. And if you're going to place him in a team, place him with people that like touches. Place him with people that would surround himself well. He's not going to do well as a wide outlet. But you know what? I hoped that Nicholas actually would have a good game. And you know what? For me, he was the standout performer in the first half, despite having very loose touches. He was very dangerous, and we give him a lot of crap on this channel. But I got to say, this was his best performance in a while. And he was a lot more direct, a lot more willing to attack players inside or outside, and be decisive with the ball. I find whenever Nicholas, he's one of those players, when you look at that, you kind of know what kind of game you're going to get within the first 30 seconds, right? Like, if he's on it or he's not, if he wants to take people on. And I felt that this first half was us going through the gears, not understanding the 4-3-3, a lot of people out of position. Mohamed El Neni, for me, stepped when he shouldn't have stepped. He didn't understand the role off the ball, even though on it, he was a lot more safe. Um, But then other than kind of the cohesion issues, what I kind of saw for me was us working on transitions and kind of hoping we were efficient at that because our buildup was really, really poor through the thirds. What did you guys feel was the struggle of the first half? Because it was pretty end to end. And I say struggle loosely because we did walk out 2-0. But I think it's worth saying we struggled and those were in transition. So what did you guys think were the issues in terms of that setup? Not just the 4-3-3, but like what wasn't working in that 4-3-3?
But
I'll go to Willow first.
it was 2-1, wasn't it? It was 2-1 at half time.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I just thought Cedric kept on going up and he wouldn't get back, and they kept on getting that space. I must admit, I don't think Ben's been up to it the last couple of games. I don't think he was very good against Leeds either. He looks quite fatigued himself, so a busy schedule for him. I was hoping he'd actually get rested tonight. So I think Ben was struggling. I think he was struggling to get the ball out of our half as well. A lot of the time, he's our progressor, and I don't think he really did that well to that game. He did break the lines a few times by going on his dribbles, and he got a few free kicks and that for that. I thought El Neni really struggled at the six. The thing I like with El Neni is he's actually good at finding the space. He's good at finding the space to actually get the ball, but he kind of shies away from getting the ball at the same time. It's like, I'm in this space, but don't pass it to me. And when he gets the ball, he's very difficult. He's very slow turning and then bringing the ball forward. And he was just messing up simple things, his touches, his passes. So I thought that was quite difficult for us because a lot of the time we would get out of these kind of presses that they were doing, these half presses that some of them were doing. But El Neni was very slow to then progress the ball and actually bring it further up. I thought Emil, again, he wasn't really up to the physicality at the start. I thought he struggled a bit. And as you said, George, as well, I didn't think Balogun would be on the left and Nketiah would be up top. I found that really strange. I thought, well, maybe they're just doing it at the start and they'll swap, but they never did. And I was like, I felt really bad for Flo because a lot of people said after his performance was really poor. And I was like, this is just not his game. This is not what he was meant to
But
do.
he also got chances too, mate. Like I find it,
He
I
did.
found, I
He
found
did.
it weird. Like, look, he didn't take them. So if you want to be like that, calm. But I mean, at the same token, Eddie's goals, his first goal, the knee rebound, good to be in the
Mm,
position, but it wasn't startling stuff. And I think Flo had a lot of chances, but again, like you said, you're asking him to play a role that's not suited to his profile, but something he hasn't even done in the under 23s. Like
no.
we don't play him as a wide outlet, and I feel we've played
Oh,
Eddie as a wide outlet. In fact, that was the game with Everton, if you guys remember, that we brought in, Eddie and Oba. The whole reason of him playing that position as a wide outlet got us back in the game. So I was quite confused, I'll be honest. And even though Balogun did play left wing for the under 23s, it wasn't wide outlet left wing. It was very
Mm,
much I'm inside, and we've got Ali Biosu and others bombing on the wide spaces, and he's far more inside. So I felt bad for Flo. I agree with you, but um, Z, mate, like, how about you? What did you feel was the difficult part of this game? Because again, I feel weird saying that we won 5-1, and it sounds like we're criticizing here, but I think the tactics for me were strange. Some of the personnel roles were
mhm.
strange, and it didn't help the players. I mean, we comment on Emil Smith Rowe, but if you really look at it,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
basically bomb the ball up, hope for second balls, and then look to transition, right? I,
Mhm.
I I
mm,
think that's not necessarily Emil's game. You want him coming back deep on a build up, getting you out of trouble, and then picking up those pockets in the middle. But we
Yeah.
weren't using that, right? We were using transitions. What did you feel was the
I
the
mean,
tough part
it's
of the start?
it, usually, you know me, like I keep on complaining about the possession, and despite us in the game having a high number of possession, it just felt like we never had like authority on the ball, and then we weren't winning our second balls enough, and all that, and it's just I don't know, it just felt like we were waiting to counter attack Sunderland, whereas we should have actually been the team to, you know, conduct like the passes, be the team to start dictating the pace of the game, and it just you could start seeing like how the game moving going away from Arsenal, and then Sunderland eventually scored. But one thing that I was impressed was afterwards, after the goal that we conceded, was how Odegaard and Emil Smith Rowe especially they started to take more authority on the ball. I think El Neni, by the way, was awful in midfield. I don't know if,
mm.
like I felt like he's usually the most reliable passer in the team, and he was awful on the ball.
Well, yeah, I think, look, I talk about a lot about this on the channel, where for me, middle third control is the key to sustained pressure, right? winning those second balls, but also making sure you've got the technical security in midfield. And for me, while I hear that people say like Odegaard had a good game, I felt like he was somebody that was reliable in possession in a team that wasn't. And your eye gravitates towards that type of thing. And in the first half, when we were basically looking, where's our buildup? He was the one person basically saying, "Give me the ball under pressure. I will release you in space, in time." And for me, he was a release valve for a team that really was lacking one in that first instance. And I think it was scrappy. You know what I mean? There wasn't, the same buildup. I think Leno was doing a poor job, calming people down, which, we expect. This is Leno. We expected a lot of these things, but in practice, it was a tough watch. I'm not going to lie. And then, despite all this criticism about us going through the gears slow, we basically have a really scrappy goal, right? Where I think before that, to be fair, we had a deflected crossbar shot, right? And then you could
Yes.
tell it was coming, right? Like I don't want to give this
Mm.
picture like we were worried, but I just felt again it was very un-Arteta like in philosophy. And then we get this scrappy goal where Eddie on the rebound after a good shot, I must say, right? Kind of is in the right place at the right time, solid knee, first touch into the back of the goal, and boom, 1-0 up. Like, what did you guys feel? Actually, here, let me phrase it this way. Would you guys agree it was coming, but that goal was really emblematic of what that first half was, where I can see the theory of what we're doing, but we've got away with that output a bit. I don't know. For me, it felt like it wasn't quite against the run of play, but it was certainly a goal that showed the level of quality of the game to that point. What did you guys think?
It was a bit of shithousery, really, with the goal.
I
But
think
I don't know.
yeah.
I think, as you said, it was coming. I thought we were. I know,
Mm.
the transitional plays, and it was a bit basketball-y, but I did think we were the dominant side. We did have quite a few attacks. We just couldn't. It was that final ball, that kind of final action, we kept getting wrong, and that kind of happens when you have the certain players on the pitch. So
Ironically, Flo had a very sorry just to cut you off, mate, but ironically, Flo had a free header in the box after a great Cedric delivery after we've
it was,
hammered him
yeah,
right before, and he was in space, and it was so unlike Flo, and I just wonder if you're in a weird environment because he's normally a killer in that aspect, in the
mm,
box, but he isn't great aerially, to be fair. But we did have those types of chances, right? I think Flo had a really good move where Emil was released and kind of in the box as well, and it ended up going out for a corner. But we had a lot of
yeah.
half chances.
We did. We did. It was coming. Sorry, Z, I cut you off, mate. What were you going to say?
No, I completely forgot lost my train of thought. Honestly,
What did you
no,
think
no
about
worry
the
about it.
Nketiah goal in general? So, like, do you kind of agree with like kind of the talk where it was a case of it was a patchy
Mm.
game with a patchy goal? Like I like it wasn't that we weren't
Yeah,
deserving of the lead, but I don't know. I think it was just so fitting we scored it that way. And we talked about it in other pods where we may have had a patchy game, but the build up goal really set us off on a very good run. I think this one kind of was like we just needed a goal because these lads were trying to work each other out, working
yeah.
the roles on the pitch, and they're like, "Can we just get a goal to calm down, please, and then we can focus on what we need to do on the pitch?"
Yeah,
Mm,
it's funny. Funnily enough, I said it yesterday to my brother. I was like, it kind of reminded me of the Southampton game where as
Yeah,
soon as we scored that first goal, we started being ourselves, and after that first scrappy goal, and despite the goal that we conceded against Sunderland, all the other goals were very high quality. In my opinion, they were very well created, and despite me having this like weird agenda against Pepe, and I've tweeted something horrendous about him. In the first half, he played really well in the second half, and he
he,
you know
he was the
he
best.
created
He was the best player for me, even in
yeah,
the first
he was
half.
really
I'll
good.
be honest.
And even Nuno Tavares' final ball was actually pretty okay, although his 1v1 chance, man, he should have scored that. But regardless, I feel like all the goals were really high quality goals, and I think it's a testament to, the system
Mhm.
working to its potential at this moment of time.
Well, I want to have an Eddie discussion, but maybe I'll do that to the second half because as we talk throughout the game, I kind of want to maybe end the first half, not go too long because I think we've kind of said it. It was very patchy. It was a very tough first half to watch, but then we got the goals and it's like really good. We've got a new guest on the show. I kid. Christina, how are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Okay, well, we were just talking about the first half. What are your thoughts on the game? We were basically, just as a recap, we felt that it was a very patchy game, struggled with the 4-3-3 tactic implementation, and scrappy game, scrappy goals, but we're up 2-1 in that half, despite us maybe not playing how we used to play. There was lack of buildup. We knew that with Leno. There's a lot of strangers on the pitch. What did you think about the start, the 4-3-3, and kind of the goals in that first half?
Well, in my vlog, I said it before the game started, like, 4-3-3, the spacing is 100% going to be off just with the players that were there. I knew straight away, this first half's going to be weird. And then if we get the goal first, we can calm ourselves down, because I felt like Elneny recently has been stepping up high a lot anyways. So he was going to do it. And then he was going to leave gaps in behind. And then if they were good enough, or if they were composed enough, they'll get the chance they got, and they took it, because they had chances earlier, but they weren't as clear cut as that chance they got to score was a very good chance. So I expected that to happen. I felt Cedric's delivery all game was very good. Like corners, crosses, that's what led to a couple of the goals. So the way we scored the first two goals was like Pepe's goal took a deflection, and Eddie's goal was like a rebound off of the flipping corner. Is like it's how we kind of deserve the goals, because we never really played through them. We just we'd get through the final third or so because the build up wasn't as good, and sometimes White would just play a beautiful ball over the top to Eddie, and that's how they'd get through, and then they just get the ball back. So the build up wasn't there, and then the spacing was off because Elneny would step. So then it just became a weird game of this like transitions, and we were losing doors.
Yeah,
so
we
never
were
had
saying
control.
we
We never had
basically
control first half.
1 second balls released outlets, and that was the game plan in the first half because we didn't have any build-up. We had no progression, and it led to like a scrappy goal. And I think the goal that we should probably talk about Eddie's second goal, because for me that was actually quality movement. And Nuno does well for a whip delivery, but you know what? We know that Nuno has that, right? I think he has trouble with decision making in the final third, but when he does make the decision to cross, his delivery of crossing is always pretty much 9 out of 10. He has great whip on it. But I think for me, Eddie, it's understated the level of movement that he does, because I don't know if you guys can watch, but beforehand he starts behind his marker and moves inside. He does the kind of the fake run and
All the
sells
time.
the defender to go back and then comes inside. And for me, that's the goal, right? Like people will comment, "Oh, great first touch, like that was a really nice finish in terms of the whip cross." But for me, it's the movement, and I think that is why Mikel's really adamant to have him stay. Like I'll be honest, he's 2 years ahead. I've always talked about on this channel, he's probably going to be a Jermaine Defoe type, somebody that will always score you goals. Will score at least 10 or 15 goals a season, non-penalty goals, and he'll be a reliable goal scorer, and he showed it. His hat trick was really good. What did you guys make of that goal? Because that was, for me, the first moment of quality in the match. I think Cedric had pieces, and Balogun had the missed header. There was a couple little bits, but then that moment was like, okay, that's quality.
Yeah, he does that a lot. Like even he does it in the box. Even when he doesn't get the ball, he does it a lot. When he scored versus Wimbledon, that's how he scored. He just peeled off the back and flicked it in the corner. So it's something he likes to do a lot. And with the space we were finding down the byline, which is weird because generally when we get to the byline, it's very crowded, but they always had space. Pepe on the right and Tavares on the left always had that space in the edge of the box to whip it in whenever they wanted. And Pepe was doing well to continually nutmegging their left back. Like he had a very good game, and I'll give it to him. Like he was good, one of the best players on the pitch. If not for Eddie,
we've already said it kind of at the beginning of the game. He was the man of the match for me.
For me, he can't be because Eddie got a hat trick. I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you get a hat trick, then you're gonna get the man of the match regardless of however well anybody else plays. So Eddie probably for the hat trick would get it, but Pepe played a big part in every goal.
Every goal for me, even
apart from the corner.
Yeah, but mate, even for me, like he also was the only one really reliably getting us up the pitch, especially in that first half. Like Odegaard would drop deep, and he was the only one that was consistent technically. But Pepe was the true outlet there. He was the one getting us up the pitch. How many times did White? You talk about Nketiah, but also White, would throw it out to to Pepe on the wing, and he was excellent. He was very
It's because
direct.
they couldn't trust Cedric
Kume.
consistently the way they trust Tommy.
Yeah.
So when White got the ball, it was like it's either I drive or I'm hitting it long. I'm not gonna pass to Cedric and put him in trouble. So Pepe was the consistent player on the right, and it's good. Like I said, like we need him to perform because everybody on form is better than just the starting 11 on form.
Well, here I want to pose this question to you guys because then we can wrap up the first half because I think we've talked. Look, the goal was sloppy. We know, Mo pushed up, and it was kind of a case of being punished for the very weakness that we were displaying all half with that 4-3-3 spacing. It really was it. El Neni pushed when he shouldn't. Quick breakaway, and look, for some people think White was at fault. I think Cedric is completely at fault. If you watch back, Pepe is back in the right back position, and Cedric is almost at the halfway line. That's ridiculous for me. Cedric is back there, and I think White, look, he can do better a little bit, but for me, he's already 2v1 in a sense because he's got Pepe in the right back position where he shouldn't be.
I think Leno should have been off his line sooner. I really do. I actually think Wright done fine. Like he kind of gave it enough space where, okay, if you're gonna do this through ball, then my keeper should be able to come out and collect this. Like there was enough on that through ball, I think, for the keeper to be able to get there. At least make it a lot tighter than what it actually was. I must admit, and obviously, as you said, Cedric was really at fault because where the fuck was he? Like I needed binoculars to actually see where he was. It was so far up.
I think for Leno, when he used to rush out the box like Chelsea, Wolves, he always got a red card or always missed the ball. So I just don't think he does it. And the keeper should never have to come out of the box, like in the center especially. They should have cleaned it up. Like obviously it was a very composed one-touch dink over the keeper. Very good finishing. If anything, Leno should have made himself bigger or harder for the striker. But apart from that, much blame has to be on the midfield and defense because we were just so narrow and the ball still went through us. Like we had nothing out wide. It was just a easy ball down the middle, bang, 2-1. But
it's from a poor El Neni step, right? Like if you do look at that progression, he makes a gamble. And then at that point, you're like, you've got acres of space. You basically have the Shaka scenario with Leeds. You're like, go on, Broadbent, go, get on your bike, and it's kind of an easy finish in the end. But I was gonna make this point. So like first half, you could probably tie it up. We all agree it was pretty patchy, but we were ahead 2-1 at halftime. But the one thing that I wanted to focus on, lads, is why doesn't off the ball movement get the praise that it deserves? And what I mean by that is when we talk about Eddie. We talk about creativity. Everyone's always on about possession, deep completions, through balls, and no one highlights the movement because the entire goal and even Pepe in general, okay, it wasn't ball to feet because he actually had a poor game on the ball, except for some of his dribbling, which was really, really good, right? But his movement off it was so aggressive, and that's the only thing really that I want to see in Nicolas Pepe is I've always wanted him to be more aggressive in his movement. Why do you guys think that off the ball movement, both from a poacher's aspect, but even wingers, like we look at Pepe, we look at what was very successful for us in this half. It was off the ball movement from our forward line. Why do you think that doesn't get the praise that, between the line passes do, other forms of created key passes, chance created? Like when we talk about those things, no one highlights the off the ball movement. And I think for me at least, that was the difference this half, especially in a half that we didn't have possession excellently. We weren't building up in our typical patterns. We were looking through transitions. That off the ball movement had to be good to get those goals. But maybe I'll go to Z first, mate. Like, what are your opinions on off the ball movement? Why doesn't it get the praise it deserves? I mean, Eddie, was doing that all game. Pepe was doing it all game. Yes, he had Cedric who was willing to overlap, but for me, Pepe was a lot more aggressive, always going inside. That was, a movement thing that he was doing before he would stay out wide. He was happy being isolated, but he was much more involved in the play. What do you think is the reason why people don't highlight off the ball movement?
I think it's just a general perception of the game, really. I mean, a lot of people when they watch the game, they watch the game. I mean, and by that I mean they just watch the game and the passes and stuff like that. They don't really look too much into it. Like for example, when we had Mesut Ozil on the ball, he was amazing. and people, generally criticized him because he wasn't pressing, he wasn't running much. But if you actually watched him at the stadium, you would see the kind of runs that he used to make, the amount of space he used to create for his opponent, sorry, for his teammates. It's crazy. But people don't really look at it. People just see, what the players do on the ball, and if they made a good pass, if they've been pressing. And I just feel like it's just a perception thing, and how people appreciate the game. Eddie Nketiah yesterday, his movement was amazing, but because he wasn't so flashy on the ball, he was a bit loose on his first touch. People are going to say like he didn't have the best of games despite scoring a hat trick, but like his movement was immense, and which is why he got his goals. And I feel like a lot of people need to start looking into off the ball movement, because it's a big part of how the team performs. Because generally, like for example, there was a game where I think it was one of the games where I watched Odegaard play, and people were saying Odegaard had a very poor game. But I was watching him off the ball, and he was making some brilliant runs. He was creating space for his teammates as well. But he didn't get the credit he deserved, and I feel like generally people need to start changing the way they look at the game, because it helps.
Well, I'll go to Chris next. Like for me, mate, the reason I want to highlight it is because I think the big thing, or the big takeaway from this game really was that off the ball movement from starters who we know aren't maybe good enough on the ball, but did display aggressive running. And in a game that you're not going to be building up, in order to make transitions work, you need to have very sharp movement off the ball. Why do you think that off the ball movement isn't recognized or praised to the same degree that somebody on the ball might have?
I think just a lot of it is to do with because the ball isn't with them. So people are just ball watching, just as certain players do. And then they appreciate the pass rather than the movement that made that person think of the pass, which is like a chain reaction where if, I'll just pick Ozil because one of the best passes ever. If say that pass everyone uses versus Swansea, if Monreal doesn't usually make that back post run, Ozil never thinks to make the pass. Like, it's because Monreal always makes that run or is willing to make the run that Ozil makes the pass. But he's looked at as Ozil's incredible to even find that pass. If you see what I'm saying. So it's like, obviously on the ball you can see what is happening 100% because the camera, and I don't think the camera helps either.
Yeah.
Because in the stadium, no one can like restrict my view, so I can see everything anyways. But on the camera, you can see only what they're giving you. So when that ball is played, they're focusing on the ball. So the off the ball movement sometimes isn't caught on camera, which is a part to play with like the media and stuff. And we can't do anything about that. But I think it's mainly because we're just so focused on what's happening there in the moment rather than what caused that to happen. And I think the movement is the causation, but what actually happens is the pass, which is why I don't think a lot of people focus on the movement, because like guys like Cavani, Oba, Aguero, these top strikers have great movement and it's what got them a lot of their goals. But it's just their finishing which is praised. But yeah, I think that's why, because it's not focused on, especially in a camera sense.
Well, the reason I'm highlighting it, guys, is because I've always felt, and I'll go to Willow next for this, kind of to tie up this little segment on off the ball movement, is when you look at positional play as just a theory, right? And you look at how many people are camped in the box, for me, off the ball movement in combination with kind of ball runners or dribblers are the key to breaking down a positional system. So when you have a bunch of players that are kind of in space, you have to draw them out. And how you do that is through typically off the ball movement. If you really just do ball to feet all the time, it's very easy to mark out positionally, mark out a zone, go man for man. It's very easy to do that. But, off the ball, yeah. And off the ball movement is typically what's going to draw out your defensive line, create, disadvantages in terms of your possession. So for you, mate, like, when you look at this kind of game that was transition, it was maybe a little patchy. My eye goes to off the ball movement, and I was really excited because I was like, you know what? Even if we're not really doing great off the ball, at least off it, we're making the right runs. Why do you think that doesn't get praised maybe to the same degree? Because I felt like a lot of people that when you look at a player like a Freddie Ljungberg, for the older guys, Theo Walcott for some of the newer guys. Maybe in a new person right now in terms of who's making awesome off the ball runs, Sterling, in more of modern games. Somebody who is a great outlet out wide, but his off the ball movement is just impeccable. What do you think is the reason for us gravitating towards on the ball people? We see this with strikers, by the way. Everyone's favorite striker, and I hate to get into that debate, is a false nine dribbler.
Mhm.
There's just different ways to attack lines, and I just wonder why do you think off the ball merchants don't get their due diligence or their praise?
With Arsenal fans, I think because we're used to it, I think we were kings of off the ball movement. We were the tiki taka team, and people just think that's about passing. It's all about the movement. It's all, you look at our best goals, the Jack Wilshere goals, the Rosicky goals. It's all about that pass and move, pass and move, pass and move. So, as an Arsenal fan, you're used to it over the years. You're used to people just making the right runs, and over time, it was, we just don't have the quality to actually pass it and actually get the ball to them. Now it's more, and I think that transitioned over time to, we don't have the quality to actually find them balls, to actually then people aren't making the run. And I think
Yeah.
last year you see that in the player everyone hated the most was Willian, because he wouldn't fucking move. He would just stand still. He would get the ball, he'd pass it off, and he would just stand abrupt, just stand there like, okay, I'll pass the ball, I'm just going to sit there. And that's when Smith Rowe exploded onto the scene. And it was the simple off the ball movement that made Smith Rowe so effective. He was just making run after run after run, and it was just the movement that just killed teams. You think of the West Brom game and that beautiful goal that Saka scored. It all came from off the ball movement and combination play. It was just fantastic to see. And I think last night, we exploited the width so well, and I think it was the off the ball movement from the fullbacks. It was the simple overlap that absolutely killed Sunderland. So I think it's just because of people are used to it with Arsenal. It is off the ball movement, and we were the kings at that.
Yeah, yeah, it made and you know what? I'll tie up that section by just saying I think we need as fans to do just a little bit better job, particularly when we focus on critiquing who's had a good game, who's had a bad game, and I think the level of on the ball accomplishment needs to be met with the same criticism if you're looking at off the ball. If people are still movers, if people aren't moving off the ball, how they press, not just if they're successful or not, but if they're making the right runs, are they intelligent? It should be met with the same critique as on the ball decision making. We talk about, Nuno Tavares, some of the ones that we question on the ball, or if you're talking about Odegaard, who, on the opposite end of the spectrum, excellent on the ball, makes the right decision most of the times. But then off the ball, are we able to see that stuff? And it's not good or bad. I just think we need to do a bit better job about evaluating. And for me, Eddie was the epitome of that all game. And, to transition to that, let's do it, because I think he had, an excellent second goal. And when we look at kind of the second half and maybe the story of that, we scored again in the 49th minute. We scored in the 58th, 2 goals from Eddie down there. And of course, Patino at the end. But we'll stick with Eddie in terms of his second and third goal. For me, progressively better. The first goal was patchy. Then the second goal is quality that we already talked about, that whip ball with Nuno Tavares. And then the third goal, lads, for me, I thought that was just what a sweeping movement. Pepe, again, phenomenal. He had Hume. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm known for really poor pronunciations, but he had the left back at Sunderland on toast all game. And he's nutmegged him twice in this half already, in the span of 7 minutes. But when he makes that run and then he takes him inside and he just has a beautiful third goal. For me, the impudent back heel. I'll go to you, Willow, first, mate. What did you make of, I guess, Eddie? Because for me, it's all in the run. Once again, Pepe does excellent as an outlet, but that's another third man run, and he improvises beautifully. The ball is a little bit behind him, but he does a really great improvisation. What did you make of that goal? Because for me, the best move of the night.
It was, what I liked about it was Pepe kind of got the ball over to that side, and Eddie didn't actually get into the box. Most strikers just zoom into the box. He waited and he waited for Pepe to actually beat the man before even really entering the box. So the defenders just not picking him up whatsoever. So it's just, it just reminds me of, you kind of, not a striker, but kind of Frank Lampard, how he would always be scanning where his players were, so he's not getting picked up. And then by the time Pepe's got that ball in the box, defenders are nowhere near him. He's got about 3 yards on it to just beautifully flick it in there. And it's like prime, really, Aubameyang. That's what Alba's great up. For us, over the years, especially when he first came, and he wasn't just getting the ball off the left and curling it in the right hand corner. it was all about him and his movement in the box. And Eddie was just doing that the whole night. And we've missed that. Alba hasn't, I guess we haven't really been playing like that, but Alba's also not really been doing that. When he hasn't been finishing it. So it was just beautiful all night. Eddie just kept on moving, kept on getting ahead of I loved that second goal, the way he got ahead of his marker, got him on his blind side and flicked it in the net. It was just beautiful the way he was doing it. So it was just really nice to see.
Yeah, mate, and it comes from a really good Odegaard pass into space where I think you look at it and you're basically saying, excellent release, and then Pepe does the rest. I'll go to you, Chris, though. In general, for me, the big substitution and the big storyline of the match is we don't get control until Granit Xhaka comes on the pitch. And when Granit Xhaka comes on the pitch, we have a tactic change. And, as a pivot lover, I'm going to give you the meat and bones of the pivot discussion. What does his, I talked about it kind of, I can't remember, was it the preview or the last match review? I said, I really wanted Granit to have a cameo in this performance because I felt that he needed a little bit technically, and I wanted him to have some space and time. What did you make of his performance? What did you make of the change to a pivot? Does this narcissistically pat us on the back for saying no more 4-3-3? What do you make of his kind of introduction at, I think, the 56th minute, by the way?
Yeah, it was with him coming on. Obviously, the spacing was a lot better. It was definitely a change to a pivot. What's his name? Emil was not as central, so he was more left on the left, combining with Tavares, and it was more clear who was where. And then Xhaka made an emphasis on us using our left flank a lot more, because in the first half, everything we were doing was going down the right, and there was no variant. We weren't really switching the ball. So with him coming on, I'm not sure how many times I can check, but his pass combination with Tavares was so consistent, and he kept finding it, and straight away Tavares would whip a ball in the box, and it was right in front of me, and he kept doing it, and we almost scored from it, but it was just a new way of us creating on the pitch. Before that, it wasn't doing. And then for him, it was probably his cleanest game technically since he's come back from injury, because obviously he has more space and he's playing against worse players technically, but he just needed less pressure because he came on 2-1 up, 2 or 3-1 up, I think, and then we're just chilling. So he's there he can do what he wants. He doesn't have the pressure that he'd have on if he does have a loose pass, it won't be as punished as it was. And then we started to sustain pressure in the second half that we weren't doing in the first, just because we were just winning our second balls, and then he was putting his foot on the ball, which is a change to what was happening in the Premier League matches, because now higher up, because Ramsdale putting his foot on the ball helps, but he's not as high up, so he's not as effective. So, but Granit was doing that for us. I think his cameo was good. The second goal was very good. Nketiah's second goal was very good. The flick from him was very good. I'm happy that he's getting flowers, because I think because he was leaving, just that his reputation got destroyed. It's the same thing that happened with Balogun. When you're about to leave, your reputation starts getting destroyed. So now he's getting prop. But I think he's obviously that reference, that Jermaine Defoe reference, never hit as much as yesterday. I'll be honest with you,
mate. I've been peddling that Jermaine Defoe reference
for a long time.
Months. And, I agree with you. He doesn't get his flowers. I definitely want to transition also to Z, mate. When you look at Eddie with that, Jermaine Defoe reference in terms of the goals, I think people are finally seeing what you've got before it's gone. But also, what did you make of Granit Xhaka's performance? Because again, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, though, you're more of a 4-3-3 idealist in theory, as opposed to a pivot, correct?
Yeah, obviously, I think 4-3-3 is it's a brilliant way of playing football. I feel like it allows your team to be a lot more expansive. But I just feel like at this moment of time, this Arsenal team is probably not the best.
Sorry, I think you've cut out, mate. If you can pop back in, I'll ask Willow just to before Z gets back in. I've made a comment in the summer that I got a lot of stick for. We're a double pivot team. We're a pivot team, along with Chris too. We've been pivot lovers, and I've said that this team can't transition to a 4-3-3 yet. And not only that, I think a pivot allows us to sustain pressure. is this a narcissistic pat on the back? Another GIF moment where you look at the story of the game, because we ended up on 69% possession. And I don't have the stats out in front of me, but I have a feeling that the first half was distinctly different to the second half. And that is directly down to Granit Xhaka and, putting his foot on the ball. Excellent technique again in this cameo. I felt like he finally had pace on his pass. One of my big criticisms about Granit in the past was, he was slow on the ball, okay, when he's not fit. But his pace of pass wasn't as crisp as it was in this past game. I felt like it was sending a message. As much as Nico was making the run, Granit Xhaka's pace on the pass to those outlets was telling him, I want you attacking space there. And for me, it was phenomenal. Like, what do you make of this pivot change? Are you in agreement? Are we a pivot team right now? Is this team a pivot team for sure? Should we stop the lone pivot experiments?
I think we've always been a pivot team, really. If you looked at kind of what we had. I mean, the only thing that annoyed me this season was I don't think we had a balanced pivot for what we were doing. I must admit, I wanted Thomas Partey's partner this summer. So I was a bit annoyed that we didn't get that, because the pivot is, sometimes imbalanced. And also, I still think we're working on it, because it's looking a lot now that, we think Partey's going to be the further forward. But actually, in the last 4 games, if we're taking it, Thomas Partey's actually been the further one back, and the other pivot player's been the further one forward. So
which I think has been to his detriment, I must add. Like, I don't think that's his role, personally.
But that looks what Arteta's doing. That's what he seems that's right. So we may be looking at that now. You might not be looking at the sitter in the summer. It's only 4 games at the moment, so we'll have to see how the season progresses. But, it may actually be we get a more box-to-box midfielder, and we are having Partey as the 6.
Yeah.
Because that is, but Granit Xhaka coming on last night was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. He made everything that El Neni made look difficult, he made look absolutely simple, easy. Every second ball he was picking up like a Hoover. Every pass, as you said, had power on it. Had how Özil used to pass, had an instruction on the pass, and he was very good in the build-up. I think for Nketiah's 3rd goal. Lovely ball over to Ødegaard. Nice power ball, and then Ødegaard straight over to Pepe, and then Pepe done the nutmeg, and a beautiful goal again. Just Xhaka was brilliant when he came on. For me, if he was on for that whole game, he would have been my man of the match, because that half he was absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, it was amazing. I probably edged it for me on Pepe, but Z, mate, you're back. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Oh, I don't know why the internet keeps on going. It just keeps on going whenever I want to speak. Stupid internet. But anyways, look, genuinely, like,
we're censoring
Xhaka,
you,
like,
Z. It's only when you agree with the opinions here. That's when you're allowed to speak.
No. But look, I agree with you guys. I mean, Xhaka was phenomenal when he came on, and he allowed it to sustain a lot more pressure, and the variation of passes that he was great on the pitch, and he looked a lot faster. I don't know for some reason. I don't know. It was very good to watch him yesterday. He added something different to a stale midfield. And one thing for sure, I don't know if you guys share the same opinion, that I have a feeling that Xhaka is not going to leave anymore, even next summer, because Lacazette will be the one that's leaving. I feel like we need a bit more senior kind of players in the team, and when you let someone like Lacazette and Xhaka go in one summer, I think there's like too many senior players leaving, alongside Aubameyang, of course. So I have a feeling Xhaka will be the guy to stay for a further season.
So you think Xhaka's staying because you think Oba's leaving now?
Oba and Laka, 100%. Because obviously, what happens is, you can't lose too many of those senior players in one kind of window. I feel like it's a bit it's a bridge too far, really. And Xhaka is already like an internal captain at the club, so it's the most sensible thing to do to keep him for another season.
What if you bring in another captain or another leader type player? You still think?
I just feel like with Xhaka, he has the familiarity with the team, and everybody respects him despite his reputation off the pitch, like with the fans, like I feel like with the players in the club.
For me, with the Xhaka thing, I never really even wanted him to leave. It's just that I never wanted him to start. So if he stays and doesn't mind being like a substitute or like a 3rd choice rather than the 1st choice or 2nd choice, then I wouldn't mind. But if he wouldn't accept being 2nd choice, then sell him for me.
It's a tough thing for me, guys, because I've always felt that the extension didn't scream "we want you to stay." It definitely screamed "I'm kicking the can down the road" because we're not quite ready for you to leave, but we're not quite ready to buy your replacement yet. I agree with Z though in experience of the squad that does need to be rounded out, especially in the midfield department. I don't know if I'd keep Xhaka just for that. I personally am recruiting big in the summer. Everyone knows how much I love basmati. Great food. And, you look at the personality complements of that. I think I'm kind of with Chris, where if you recruit a leader profile there, in addition to the player, then that's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be him. But I do want experience in the backup center mid option because I know, look, El Neni's leaving as well.
Yeah,
I think I think when you're looking at the average age of that midfield department, with Granite, he's the only outlier, and it's probably around a mean age of 25. Without it, though, it's probably 23. Like when you look at the collection of profiles there, and for me, it's a little young, because we've got Ode, ESR, we've got Lakunga, Ainsley's unlikely to be there, El Neni will be gone. We've got Partey and Xhaka right now, your two elder statesmen. So if you're getting rid of El Neni as well as you're getting rid of Xhaka, if that's your plan, I don't know if that's the plan of many. That's something that I would prefer. I think it is a risk, in addition to your striking department, going to not recruit some type of experience. But I'm kind of a person where if you recruit leadership and you're losing a leader, then that's okay. So for example, what I mean by that is David Luiz leaving was okay because White is a leader in how he plays. For me, that was an okay transition. I think you can do similar in midfield. If Granite leaves, that's fine, but you need to recruit somebody willing to put his foot on the ball and do those Granite things. Maybe I'll put it to the panel, lads. Like, do you kind of agree with Z? Chris. I mean, I'm sure you're okay with him leaving.
George, my issue is that we lose 3 captains in the space of one window. And that's where I feel like there's going to be a big issue because you lose Oba, you lose Laka, and you lose Xhaka. So that's 3 captains you've lost. Who are you going to sign to replace them, regardless if they're new players that join the club? They're not going to immediately take that seniority, and who are we going to give it to? Odegaard, Tierney. Like for me, it's a big worry. Really, I feel like we have to keep at least one of them to at least ease that transition. And hopefully in the future windows we can get in their replacements. But for now, we need to at least keep one of them 100%.
We were always gonna lose at minimum 2. Minimum 2 we're gonna go because
I always had that feeling that Oba will be the one that stays until his contract finishes. That was my thing, but I don't think he lasts until January. I think he's gone. So it's kind of this thing where we have to, at least keep one senior member to ease the transition.
Is Holden 100% going or is he staying?
I don't know about.
Holden doesn't go. Chambers is going for free, isn't he?
Yeah.
January 2020. Holden doesn't leave.
Let me rephrase the question, guys, because I think what we're kind of doing is here. I would argue Saka is our technical leader in all throughout the team, but also in the final third specifically. Even though Oba and Lacazette represent experience, is it a question of leadership groups or is it a question of, experience? Because for me, Saka is our experience at that point. And, I think the baton pass of your Oba or Laka should have been given to your ESR, your Odes, your Saka quite often, and if us delaying that has actually delayed this team moving forward. I think each third of the pitch has its leader. In the defensive third, it's gone from Luiz to Gabriel. I think in the midfield, if we get rid of Xhaka, we need to buy that lieutenant. I don't think it's going to be Partey. I think Partey isn't that type of personality.
He's not the main man.
No, so we will. If Xhaka wasn't to leave, we will need a starter to do that. But in the final third, I oddly think we're kind of okay. I feel as though Emile and Saka can take up that leadership role, even though they're not experienced. What do you guys think? Because I think it's a valid question, and it's a turnover that's going to happen.
For me, with that leadership thing, I think it has hindered us up front in the sense that the players like Emile, Odegaard, Saka, they don't fully take responsibility yet because the 30-year-olds are still up top. So everything lies on them. So when you need them to take the responsibility, especially away from home, at times they shy away from it. So I do hear your point with but I think like it's just gonna come down to who wants to be bought. I think we won't necessarily. Like me, to be honest, I want all of them sold. Xhaka, let's lean in on. If he stays, he stays. But I still want someone else to start ahead of him. So, but Laka and Oba I don't know what happened, so I can't say definitively. Because if it's something that they can resolve, then I'd want him to stay to the end of his contract. But Laka, I'm 100% he should leave. And then Xhaka, it seems like they planned for him to leave anyways. So would they go back on that? I'm not sure. But me bringing a leader, someone who's been captain at their club that we've done in the past, and then I think we'd be fine, honestly, because players will be leaders wherever they go. It's not if a player's a real leader, they're gonna lead in some aspect wherever they go, regardless of their role. Especially if you're gonna be brought to be the leader, you're gonna have some say so, regardless, just because of who you are. So I think if you buy a leader, and I'm talking about Declan Rice, if you buy, yeah, if you do buy him, then yeah, like obviously he's gonna be known. He's known already as that guy. So when you bring in that guy, everything they just assume their role, especially if they are what they're meant to be. So I wouldn't really like say he's new, so you don't give him the role.
I'm a big fan of. I'm gonna go to Willow next on this. I'm a big fan of complementing mental profiles as well as physical. Like when we talk about players, we always cite, oh, if he's a deep lying playmaker, he needs to be paired with a really defensive box to box. If we talk about a ball carrying center back, we normally want a sweeper center back next to him that's really aggressive, great in duels, right? I think the same can be said mental. And like when you look at somebody that wants to be on the ball versus somebody that can receive kind of in the background, they're very different profiles, right? Like Willow, what do you make of this experience versus leadership chat? I mean, I know I'm with Chris in the thing of if you buy a Rice and that type of person, that can replace Xhaka in the leadership, no problem. Like that isn't an issue. Or do you need an experience in the squad to do so? Like, what's your kind of opinion on it?
I think two things. I think for one, our youngsters have been taking responsibility for a long bloody time anyway. I know Lacazette, Aubameyang and Xhaka, but they've all had falling outs, and we've still been able to get through it. Xhaka's fell out and been stripped as captain. Alba has as well, and we've been okay. Our Saka stepped up, Emil stepped up. But I think you have to look at it in another point of view as well. It's not always about the club and what the club want. You've got to look at what the player wants as well. Xhaka signed this new deal, but I think it was a gentleman's agreement and you go the next season. Xhaka's not a guy who wants to be second fiddle and be, okay, I'll be a utility guy. I'll sit on the bench and wait. No. Bushra mentioned Gladbach. He was the captain. When he came to Arsenal, he got captaincy. He wants to be the captain. He wants to be the main guy. We've seen, the on mics as well. He's always, that's football, guys. That's foot. He wants to be the main guy. He wants to be he wants to be the hype man. He wants to be the main focus of the game. Why would he want to come and stay at Arsenal for another year if he's going to be a bench guy? If someone else is going to take his place, especially if we are talking about as what UCK and George are talking about, where you go and get a Declan Rice and he takes the, he's not just taking your place on the football pitch. He's actually taking one of your captaincy roles as well. He's taking your leadership roles. You're not going to want to stay if you're Xhaka. You've got to look at it from his point of view. He's not going to want to stay.
Yeah, and
if you bring another captain, especially in that role, and you give him responsibility, he will know. Oh, this guy is. If you give him that captain responsibility, he's going to be starting a lot, which just minimizes his role, anyways. And Xhaka's like not in the same, like he's young and stuff, but he's like other players that I haven't wanted to bring in just because they're gonna demand a starting spot. And when they do that and you don't give it to them, it will just create problems that you just can't afford. So
it's the opposite logic with a Boubacar Kamara, where a lot of people would love him in the squad, but he will demand as a young budding star to be the guy.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of people view him as squad depth, and that dichotomy causes friction, in my opinion. Z, I want to end with you kind of on this little debate, and then we'll wrap up with Charlie Patino because we wanted to keep it a little shorter this time. We heard your comments. We're going a little long on the vids. So, mate, when you look at it, leadership versus experience, I know you've said in the past you felt that, Granite has a gentleman's agreement, right?
Yes, he does. He does. Yeah.
And so do you feel that if you buy a leadership profile in the form of Rice, look, us on the channel, we love Rice, so we're going to say the name, but you buy
100%.
that, right? Is that okay as opposed to
Yes.
experience?
Yes, of course. I mean, someone like Declan Rice is a complete different character to like if we wanted to compare a signing that we probably got from I don't know Italy or I don't know Spain, then that's a complete different conversation we're having. But if you end up signing someone that's from like the England camp or like they're from like the domestic leagues, then it's someone that you can actually gauge with. You can get them to grow into that leadership kind of role. And if you're saying Declan Rice, bring him in right now. He would be the captain of Arsenal.
He would.
There's no doubt about that. But that's the kind of thing. Are we going to go this summer and recruit those kind of players in? I feel like we're going to go very big on a striker, but I don't know if that particular striker can be part of that leadership team, because just looking at the profiles that we're looking at, I just don't see it. So I don't know. I just feel like it might be a step too far, and we might need to keep Xhaka to at least have that kind of balance. But look, if we're bringing in Declan Rice, like I said, I don't care. That's it. That's the captain confirmed for me.
We'll have a Declan Rice breakdown out quicker than you can say, notifications on. But you know what? Look, I want to end on Patino really quick. He got his cameo on this channel. We've been afraid about introducing him too soon. Really good goal. Like, he took his finish excellently. Really composed finish.
Yeah, because he was in the same position Odegaard was in.
That's what I was going to say. He did what Odegaard didn't.
Just before that, Odegaard put it straight at the keeper.
You can't. We have an agenda on this channel.
Sorry.
You cannot do that. Okay,
Come
guys?
on, Willow.
Even though I was going to say it, you can't say it. Okay? Anyways, no, he did. He took it first time. It was phenomenal. He's in the box, and 10, 15 minutes earlier, Odegaard has similar chances.
That's the first time I've ever seen him that advanced, though. I was really surprised to see him that ahead of the pivot. It was really weird.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, as a coach, and when you're blooding in youngsters, you want them higher up the pitch because there's a lot more responsibility out back. So we normally put players out wide or up top, as well as like the free mover, in order to give them the freedom so that they don't have a lot of responsibility. But what did you guys make of the cameo? I'll be honest, again, narcissistic Pat, I think it showed why he wasn't ready. He had a great composure finish, but on the ball, it was really tough for him to put his foot on the ball, really.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the cameo?
Well, he wasn't necessarily involved too much. There was a big foul on him that made the crowd go ooh, like, and then there was guys shouting, "Ref, it's a red, He's only 12," and stuff like that. But because he's so small but everyone knows him now. So when he came on, he was welcome. Well, I think obviously the goal is nice to get on your first game. Still 18, just turned 18 like a couple months ago. So for him, it's very big, and for the future, it's very good for him just to have a reference point that he scored in his first goal. But I think even Arteta said that there's no guarantee he'll be used again this season, just because physically he's 100% not ready. It was very evident, especially League One, where these guys are just rougher, and we saw it the whole game. They want to duel you more rather than play you technically. There were big fouls on him, and he was fouled twice, I think, in his 14-minute cameo.
He was clattered. I can't remember who was the one, but he was absolutely clattered.
Yeah, he
really
was
dangerous.
And it was a yellow card, and then the fans were shouting it's a red. But that's why I felt obviously it's great for him to score, and it was good that he scored because that took over the narrative.
Yeah.
But if he didn't score, it would have been like, oh, he's not that good.
We would have got the Balogun treatment.
Yeah, would have got it. But it's good that, in a certain extent, for young players, that GA clouds narrative, because he wasn't necessarily good, but he just scored in it. So
and it was a great finish. It was a great finish. Like the composure. It's what I complain about our players a lot of times. They're in that position. They don't take the first time shot, and it's honestly simple placement. So really great composure. I'll go to Willow. What did you make of kind of Patino? I find it very odd. that, we've got that dichotomy where he's kind of a stick. He hasn't really done much, but he scored. So everyone's like, Patino was excellent. He had a great debut. And, Balogun had far more chances, a little bit more established, but is saying that he needs a loan. It was really, really poor. What do you make of the narrative switch? Because I think people forget Balogun hasn't really had a first team debut in a while.
He played 2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 games, and and even then, there was, I think, what didn't he have a Europa League?
Okay, he had 2. He never started in Europa, but he had these 2 games, and he scored in like 6. He got 2 goals and an assist in like 60 minutes worth of cameos.
Yeah.
So then his prop rose. Then this season he played against Brentford, and after that we haven't really seen him.
Exactly, and Brentford was really his first team debut, right? But beyond that, you've got debuts, and one was horrible and one was excellent, and it was separated by a goal. What did you make of it?
What, Patino or the Balogun thing?
A little bit of both. I mean, for me, what did you make of Patino? What did you make of the narrative switch on debuts here? I just find it funny personally because I just think that they're talked about very differently in this game.
Yeah, but everyone's fickle at the end of the day, like with it. Like it's kind of just how it is. But I think it was fairy tale for Patino at the end of the day. Like getting your goal, the whole stadium, you could hear them chanting his name, literally saying Charlie Patino. Like that guy is going to remember that for the rest of his life. Like it's just brilliant. Like having ex-footballer, Jack Wilshere, these people posting on social media of him, like. He's just going to love life, and it's such a big confidence boost for him. Obviously, he didn't do much in the game. He was playing in a position, he was playing much higher up than where he's usually played. He didn't get the ball that often either. It was kind of at the dying embers of the game anyway. The last 15 minutes, we already did the job. So, and we're, a lot of the time as well, we're not one after we've done the job. We don't normally go out to absolutely kill a team. We normally keep it within. We've got 5-1 in the end, but normally we keep it within the distance. We don't go for the 7-0s. So. I mean, he had a few hard challenges on him, and he got up well. Look, he just got on with it. That's what I really liked about him is he had a couple hard challenges, and he got up straight away and just got on with it. He didn't roll around, and that's what I was impressed with. So it was just nice to see him with the Balogun thing. I think we've already covered it. Really, it's just he wasn't playing in a position that he's used to playing in, and it doesn't really matter. You just get on with it. He goes on loan for 6 months, and I think he absolutely kills it. And he comes back a different beast.
If he scored that header. That big header chance that he had.
Narrative switch.
The narrative is it's crazy. Like it's completely different.
It's because I thought he actually I couldn't understand the Twitter sphere. I thought he played quite well. He got many chances, and I was just think, this is why he needs a loan. I'm like,
he was better on the ball than Nketiah. That's the thing for me. For me, I feel like sometimes people just look at the goals and they'll be like, okay, Nketiah had a much more accomplished performance. I don't think that at all. I think if anything, that game proved to me that Balogun needs a bit more games, and then he's ready to start for Arsenal. Because for me, he showed a lot of maturity on the ball. Despite that, him playing on the left, isn't his most favorable position. He showed a lot more maturity than some of our senior players, and that says something. So I'm hoping that his loan, wherever he goes, he comes back a bit like a beast, just like Emil Smith Rowe did, 100,000%.
Just kind of ready to stake his claim, you know what I mean? And I think when we talk about youngsters and we talk about youth development not being linear, we've had those favorite phrases. I keep rinsing them on the timeline and on here. Everyone has a different path. It doesn't lower your expectation or the reality of how ready a player is. Ultimately, it's just experience. When you look between Balogun and Eddie has 2 years of experience on him, period. Mm-hmm. That is it. We're not talking about quality right here. And I kind of just wanted to end the game on that. There was a really funny Instagram story of, Bukayo Saka and, on his Instagram. I don't know if you guys saw about, how did you feel about the goal? He's like, I'd like to thank all my parents. And I just think those little things about Bukayo, though, he's becoming a leader in this team. And I think that's important. I don't just use that as an example for the Hale End boys. I think he's truly going to take the mantle. And I can't wait till he is recognized in the team as the leader.
They see him, sorry to cut you off, but them youngsters do see him as the big guy. They all reference him. Even Balogun referenced him, even though he played a lot in the young game. Like he always references him. I see Emil and Saka in the first team in England. I see you see a pathway now. So what Emil and Saka do for them does well. Like, and for them to, I really wish he scored, because when the whole crowd starts cheering your name, it's a feeling they never felt before, because even if they do win cups, no one's watching you. So it's in front of maximum, you get like 100 people maybe.
Yeah.
They never felt having 50, 60,000 people sing your name. So for Charlie Patino, it was a big one, like for him to get the goal, because it goes around everything. Like nothing else means anything. But yeah, like Saka, these guys are the big guys in the change room, and it just takes for the old men to leave, for them to really assume responsibility, especially with more youngsters coming into the change room. Like Salah Dean was there yesterday, Okonkwo was there. So these guys consistently being there means that the Sakas of the world aren't the youngsters anymore. They can't be. Like you have to really assume your role when there's so many more people younger than you.
It's the CES conversation, isn't it? It's about, it's not just are you good enough, are you old enough, but it's about are you old enough and good enough to kind of lead the team. These questions are always going to be narrative driven online. I just thought it was really, really good to see those things, both on Instagram, how these players talk, but, kind of a baton pass. And you've got debuts and, look, we end the game 5-1. We kind of told you at the beginning of the stream we would try to make this a little bit shorter. We've got 1:15, so I kind of want to wrap it up on final thoughts really on the game. For me, look, 5-1. I've said in the past I'm worried about the fixture congestion, but when you go 5-1, really, really good. We go on to the semifinal. And we take it from there, boys. I think I don't know if anybody's seen the scores, but I think stuff is still going on. So
Chelsea 2-0. Chelsea got an own goal and a pen in the last 10 minutes. Liverpool's 3-2 right now, and Spurs is still 2-1.
Yeah. So it looks like it's a jam-packed semifinal.
Spurs, Chelsea, and probably Leicester.
Yeah, and probably Leicester at this point. But look, we'll talk about that lovely fixture congestion in another pod. I think the draw is going to happen later tonight. So, look, great game by the lads, 5-1. Now the fourth game with more than 15 shots, more than 2 XG, more than 2 goals.
More than 60% possession, because in the first half we had 60, in the second half we had 75. So
yeah. Perfect. So you got those. I was wondering to have that backed up because we said it earlier in the pod. But yeah, lads, it was a great game. We're probably going to get you guys the preview out on Friday, I'd assume. Probably we'll get you back on the times. But we got a lot of stuff planned again. Christmas schedule's busy, so we're going to try to keep up with it. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. You hit the bell for notifications. You can find us at BoP Footy on Twitter. You can find me at GeorgeV_AFC. And Chris, where can they find you?
Pure CKK, thank you for 500 followers on BoP Footy. We wanted it before Christmas and we got it, so thank you for that. And yeah, that's where you can find me, Pure CKK.
Yeah. Before you guys,
where can they find you?
Yeah, private Arsenal_Z, and I just wanna squash the rumors. Talking ball. I'm seeing you in the comments. I have not been kicked out of ball over passion. I'm still a founding member of the YouTube channel, and I'm here to stay. All right, guys, that's it, man.
Seriously,
I know I'll be doing vlogs, like, because I've done vlogs in the past, but I just didn't post them, like a couple, to be fair. But I'll do one for the Wolves game or City game if I'm there.
Yeah, make sure you guys check out CK's vlog. Those are always awesome for a lot of international fans that can't get there. Even me, I lived through CK's. Wrap it. When you've got people through. Willow, baby, what do you? Where can they find you?
The one Willow, baby. Just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. I want to see everyone wearing shit shirts, shit jumpers on the Friday. You gotta be
exactly. You know what? I'm gonna join you, Willow. And
get in the Christmas mood.
All the boys at BoP, we wish all of you guys in the comments. And I just wanted to say last thing. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. Like honestly, it's just crazy the amount of times and the amount of people that keep tuning in, and a lot of the constructive criticism, the engagement. It's just been going up and up. Stocks rising, as we like to say, and it's just awesome to see. We want to wish everybody a happy holidays, safe holidays for you and your fams. We're going to be back with a preview, hopefully with some more ugly Christmas sweaters, because I'm on that, Will. I'm going to join you. I'm going to bring all the grandma knitting. It's going to be good. We're going to have some eggnog, a little bit of fun. And, yeah, we'll be back with you guys for the preview on Friday with, Arsenal versus Norwich. So Thanks, lads, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And follow current BoP, I forgot. But yeah, peace.
Bruh.